Hey everyone, Mango7Roll here. How we doing today? Welcome to another episode of Epic 7, and it is balance patch time. I do want to apologize. It is 6 in the morning, and I am groggy. And let's just take a look at this and jump right in. As always, I have never read any of this ahead of hand. I don't know who's going to be here. I'm just kind of excited. There's lots of balances I would like, and let's just get into this. So they're implementing changes to 9 heroes, including 2 specially changed heroes, which means they're actually implementing to 6, right? No, 7 heroes, and 3 artifacts. Okay, so let's see. So we have DJB. Kind of surprised by that. I thought he was doing okay. Maybe I'm incorrect. That's just my unknowledgeable self. I thought people were semi-happy with him. Haste is somebody who needs like a lot. I really like Haste, and I'll be really excited if Haste is good. Chu is kind of the same. I have Chu Mulligord. I wish she was more useful. She's just not. We'll see how that goes. Alencia, kind of the same. She was insane. Also, no Araminta. You know, a lot of people got multiple buffs at once. Maybe Era could have got another. No, wishful thinking. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, Alencia. Interesting as well. This is just such a weird list, so let's hope there's some cool things in here, because a lot of this is kind of weird. So we have Time Matter, Snow Crystal, and Eternatus or Eternus. So let's take a look at DJB. So again, full disclosure, I am not fully comfortable with the DJB skill set. I know what he does, I just don't know what he does. A lot of people don't understand when I say that. I mean, I know what he does in a battle. I know in general what his skills do, but I don't know exactly how his skills work. And I think a lot of people are like that as well. So Desert Storm before Desert Wind first is attacks enemies with wind, 35% chance of stun. Now it's a heal on top of it before recovering the health of all allies, amount recovered. Okay, so that's the passive, right? Basically, tacked into skill 1, right? It's also not an AoE stun anymore. And now they've changed Everlasting Oasis to Desert Storm, so we have a new ability here. And with the Sandstorm, inflicts a barrier inversion on all enemies and has an 85% chance to decrease hit chance for 2 turns. When the target is granted barrier, grants an extra turn to the caster. Okay. Barrier inversion inverts barrier into damage, unaffected by ER and whether the attack hits, and applies to heroes only. Interesting. Is this another way they're trying to counter Hwoarang? Because that seems like another way to try to counter Hwoarang. That's kind of weird. Also unable to be affected by ER. When the target is granted a barrier, what does that mean? When the target has barrier on? I'm sorry, I don't understand. I know I'm groggy right now, but I just don't understand that. Like, when the target is granted a barrier, you're not granting anybody a barrier, right? You're inverting their barrier to make it so the barrier turns into damage. I don't understand. Can somebody clarify that in the description below there? And now Bastet Roar here, down to 2 souls and up 4 turns as well. So that's pretty good, right? And also immunity for 2 turns to all allies. So lowering the cooldown, upping the lowering the cooldown and lowering the immunity from 3 to 2 turns, which is probably a good thing overall, just because dispels exist, right? Also, one thing to mention too with DJB and Desert Storm is, like, does this just kill PIERA? Like, I don't understand. Like, is this literally just going to one-shot PIERA and possibly some other things too? I'm not sure, because that seems like it would. If you're inverting a barrier, and her barrier is like as much or more than her HP pool, I feel like that's going to be kind of nutters, right? So I guess we'll have to see how that works, but that seems like a way to definitely try to counter the Hwoarang and definitely try to counter the PIERA as well. Next up, we have Haste here, and Haste Envoy Scythe No longer bleeds? I don't understand. That's Haste's whole thing is bleeds. Why doesn't it bleed? That's so weird. 75% chance to steal a buff? Did you really need to take away the bleeds on like not a good character? I don't understand. Maybe Vampiric Seal is gonna be better here. So attacks all enemies with Envoy's Scythe, dispelling 2 buffs before 100% chance each to inflict 2 bleeding effects instead of 3 for 2 turns. A critical hit has an 85% chance to decrease defense. Okay, so now he has defense on his skill 3 as well. Damage dealt. Skill cannot trigger. What are they doing? Like, make up your mind. Like, he went from detonating and bleeds and earth elemental to like changing something to something I don't think is especially great. That's so weird to me. That's such a like, what's going on? Make up your mind. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand. Okay, so Chew here. Let's maybe this one's pretty cool. So attacks enemy with the spear before okay, so Chop actually doesn't get a change. It's just the soul burn. And now Foosh here absorbs some of the damage dealt as health, tens by 70% instead of 50%, and increases the cooldown, increases damage. And then the soul burn is, oh no, there's not a soul burn. It's just increased damage dealt overall. So that seems like a decent buff, right? Now, when the skill is unavailable due to cooldown count, after an ally except for the caster is attacked, has a 20% chance to counterattack. I mean, that's okay. And then 20% chance to counterattack, you're going to be boosting your CR as well. So this kind of allows her to use a non-counter set or to stack a counter set, try to get even more counters. Kind of another interesting change here. I don't think this is going to change anything, right? Because maybe a little bit more damage on Foosh, but a little bit more of not much is not really much to begin with. I don't think it's going to be enough. This is an interesting change though, and just having this there might make her a little bit more oppressive, but still, when you're counterattacking and doing like 2k damage or 3k damage and boosting your CR up, whereas Rem is counterattacking the whole team for like 10k and dispelling buffs and lowering cooldowns of buffs and stuff like that, and Violet's counterattacking and healing himself and hitting for 10,000. I'm kind of worried if they'll have a spot for Cream as well. The other thing too is critical hit resistance is a little unfortunate, right? It's not stable enough, and that's one of the problems with Cream. I've used her quite a bit, and every time I use my critical hit resistance, it just doesn't work and I die. So that's kind of interesting. Now we have Alencia here and batters the enemy, just damage dealt increase. Okay. I don't know if her skill one needed more damage. It already did a lot, right? But then again, maybe it did a lot before people were OP. Interesting. So let's take a look at this. So, okay. 100% chance to grant Mind's Eye the caster for 1 turn. So just happens now instead of having to be hit. And after using Eradicate, when the caster is granted Mind's Eye, strikes the enemy inflicting injuries. Damage dealt proportion to the max health, and the severity of injuries up to 10%, and also Mind's Eye increase effectiveness by 50%. Okay. Interesting. And Genesis, we're also losing the cooldown of Genesis by 1 turn. I actually didn't know that was there before. And we have Genesis Awaken, increase CR of the caster by 50%. Okay, so these are pretty sweet changes for Alencia. I think I like these ones the best so far. Just having this to be consistent is important. Extra damage dealt is important. Injuries maybe for longer battles, but I just don't know how that fits into everything. But kind of cool there too. And the CR boost is pretty sick as well. 50% CR is great. So we're also changing the EE from effect of Mind's Eye by 20% to recovers the caster's health when using Eradicate. Okay, that's kind of sick too. I don't know why I keep saying sick, but it's sick. And then we have Moonlight Silk. Okay, what's going on here? Get rid of bleeding, and it's just 50% chance to target. She's also losing her speed scaling, but increases the damage done. I would say overall that's probably a buff to her damage. And then we have Focus Fire here, which used to decrease CR, 50% chance of granting an extra attack, increasing the effect chance by 50% when they're debuffed, and speed scaling. Now it just dispels one buff, and when the caster has a buff, triggers a dual attack from the ally with the highest attack. Okay, that's kind of interesting, especially for PvE focused stuff, specifically like Abyss, right? That's pretty fantastic, and I think people used her for Abyss as well, if I'm not mistaken. So Shock Arrow now, before it inflicts silence and makes them unhealable for 2 turns, and also proportionate to the caster's speed. Now it inflicts silence and decreases attack for 2 turns and increases CR by 100%. Grants a barrier to a caster for 2 turns. That's pretty sweet too. I do like that a lot. I also like, most importantly, actually maybe not most importantly, I think if this Soulburn was, if this was like decreased defense, or if it was stun, the ignore ER would be a lot more important, but silencing for 2 turns is pretty insane as well. Pretty cool, pretty cool. I like that a lot, but oh, this is insane. 4 to 14 speed, that's much better. That's what you want to see on basically anybody, and I imagine she's going to be fantastic for as well. We then have her exclusive equipment. Increases target effect chance of basic shoot by 15%, so that's up to a 65%-ish chance target. Okay, then we have Montmorency getting a buff. Surprisingly buff. So 50% chance to put them to sleep for 1 turn instead of 35%. This now dispels 2 debuffs first before recovering health and granting immunity. Okay, that's a buff for sure. And then Solitude, instead of increasing sleep, when attacked by an enemy that is not an elite or boss monster, damage suffered by the caster decreases by 15%. Okay, so that's not bad at all. Pretty decent change to a Momo, but I don't think she needed this. And if she did need this, I feel like she needed this gone. Like, make her help her tank things better in PvE. I don't think she really needed a PvP boost. Granted, she's obviously not as good as she was in PvP before, but she's still good enough. I think she was definitely should have been given some love to PvP to help those newer players. And now we have Eraz here, so now increases healing of his Purifying Flame. Okay. And then Wedge Rune, the ally for the highest attack except for the caster. I mean, anybody who's using his skill 2 and he's the highest attack, you know, there's something wrong with your party. I didn't even know that was possible, to be entirely honest. Now, Solitude Rune before increases health recovered. Now, after the ally in the back row suffers a single attack and damage is suffered is 30% or more of max health, grants a barrier to the target for 2 turns. Barrier strength is equivalent to 40% of the caster's max health. Interesting. So that's kind of another interesting change. I don't really understand this entirely. This is kind of hilarious. This is kind of something or other, and also I'm guessing this is balanced out here, right? So all that's really happening is this. Like, let's be real, the rest are all negligible and don't matter. So they'll grant a barrier to the target equal to 40% of Raz's health, which can be pretty insane. This is actually potentially a very, 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 very useful rune here now, and I'm pretty excited to see how that works out for sure. Now, Time Matter here, reduce skill cooldowns and increases the damage of the next attack by 36%. Now, increases damage by 12% when attacking. It's flat. And then making the conditional part less as big as before. So it's the same amount of attack if you kill an enemy, but if you don't kill an enemy, you get an extra 12%. Still don't think that's anywhere near comparable to any other mage artifacts, though. So now Soul Crystal increases critical hit resistance by 20%, which is pretty sweet as well. I do like that over the effect resistance, I think, because especially since her passive or whatever it was is changing from... Wait, no, that was Alencia, never mind. I was thinking choose ER/effectiveness was changing just to effectiveness, but that's actually Alencia. I mean, okay. This is so weird, guys. Gals. So Eternatus now increases CR of the caster by 12% when an ally is debuffed at the start of a turn. now increases by 14% when an ally has a debuff at the end of an enemy's turn. Okay, so that seems pretty sweet, right? That, like, this seems like one of the best changes here, because this is going to make it so he can cut in, or anybody with a Turnus can cut in. I do really like that. So yeah, these are kind of the weirdest patch thingies I've ever seen. Not sure what to really think of these changes. Like, they go to completely changing DJB after 17 different buffs instead of like trying something new with somebody else, you know? Haste, like, taking away his identity after already changing him a bunch of times. Chew was kind of just like what are you doing with Chew, you know? Like, that didn't really make sense. But there is quite a bit different here, and maybe that's going to be better than I expected. Alencia was pretty positive. I think they did change a bunch of stuff, and I think it was for greater, like, the positive part of it. Wander Silk looks pristine now. Maybe people will use her more in PvE. Momo and Araz got kind of marginal changes, but hopefully for the better. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope I explained that well enough in my groggy state right now. I'm going right to bed after this, and I will talk to y'all later. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this patch. I'm just kind of indifferent of it. There's nothing I'm excited about, and I'm just kind of curious. You know, like, this is such a weird patch to me that all the changes just seemed odd, is the best way I can say it. So yeah, have a wonderful day. Bye, everybody.